My audio seemed like it was getting awfully weak in the last few videos, so I'm trying out a new microphone today. It's cordless, so now I can leave the camera just sit there, and hopefully the audio will not be as choppy. So I don't know what I'm doing here at all. I'm just going to try to figure it out. Here's a good trick with this car. You think the hood's open, okay? I don't know which other models of Mercedes have this, but I'm sure there's a few. If you reach in, and I'll show you closely in a sec, there's a button here. And if you pull the hood down just a little bit and then push in that button, oh, look at that. The hood goes almost straight up. Way better clearance. Here's the hinge. This is the strut that holds the hood open. The hood is currently almost straight up, and this is the button I'm talking about. When your hood gets to its normal open position, you have to pull it down just a little bit, and then push that button in. Hold it in, and then use your other hand to let the hood all the way straight up under control. Don't let it just fly up. And this right there is the top of my strut. And this is the stuff that's been slowly squeezing out through the little hole here. And that is what I believe is this bushing failing. And now I'm going to take my right hand here and I'm going to reach down and grab the left front wheel, which is below me here, and pull it up and down. The car's off the ground on a lift. So watch this movement. There should be none. Yeah, that's not good. So that's what we're after today. As I showed you, that's what I've got to replace it with. Not sure how it goes in there one way or the other. I'm hoping that the fact that I was able to buy these means that it is theoretically replaceable. So I'm just going to go ahead and vacuum this up, and then before I disconnect anything or start loosening anything, I'm going to lower the car down, start it up, and make sure that the suspension, this is an adjustable hydraulic suspension, is at its lowest setting, which will make my strut the shortest, which will hopefully give me more clearance on the top, because I'm going to try to just undo the top here, drop it down enough to see what's happening and maybe get this replaced, and not remove the whole strut from the whole car. That's what I'm hoping. We'll see. Okay, we're set low. I'm going to pick it back up and then remove the front wheels. I disconnected these plugs on top by squeezing in a little bit where it's obvious, and then I used a little tiny screwdriver and put it underneath right about here and gave it a little bit of a pry, wiggle, wiggle, and it started to rise up. Plug came out no problem. Done that on both sides. Okay, let's take a look under here. There's our spring on our strut. Looking up at the top, that's the deteriorated, right, let me touch it here. That is our deteriorated bushing. So that's the bottom of the bolts that are up on the top of the fender. So I'm hoping when I undo those bolts this whole assembly will come down far enough for me to take the top. Looks like there's a top cover here. So I'm assuming, yes, this bottom cover, top cover are going to need to be separated so I can get the old one out, the new one in. Hopefully I can get it down far enough, and maybe might need to use a spring compression tool or something to get it to give me clearance. I don't know. Looks like if I make everything droop here as far as it can, the only thing I risk damaging is this thing. It looks like a little arm is bolted to the upper part of the suspension. It looks like there's a nut here where I can disconnect it. If I had to guess, I mean, it's like a ride height sensor. Might have something to do with the ABC, I'm not sure. Or what I'm going to guess is it's part of the aiming system for the xenon headlights. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that if I can easily enough. Yeah, it's to aim these bad boys. We've got it undone. The nut here is a 10 millimeter and it's been a little squished, so it's pretty tight. Meant not to slip, and you see on the shaft here, this little flange, it's got a flat on 2 spots. So if you use an 8 millimeter wrench that's fairly narrow, you can grab it and keep it from rotating, and then you'll be able to loosen this nut. So it's a 10 millimeter nut, 8 millimeter to hold the shaft. Haha, yeah. Next, I'm setting up, you can see I've got my floor jack here off to an angle so I can actually use it without banging into the car. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to raise it up, and I'm going to get a woods piece here where, because there's a metal plate behind here that I don't want to squish, so I can't just put a block and jack it up. So I'll make sure that I am just holding the rotor and not the back plate at all. And then I'll bring up my jack to give support here, and that way I can control what's happening with wherever this is hanging. I hope. Don't know. We'll see. I have used a shoelace to pull back this wire and hold it out of the way. And now I'm going to go through and loosen each of these. These are 13 millimeter. I like to loosen these by hand because then I can feel how tight they actually are. That way when we go to put it back together, we'll have a pretty good idea of how much torque it's going to take. Okay. That's the last one. All right. Well, let's see if I can lower it down with the jack. Ooh. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, the jack is moving away from the rotor. All right. And haven't dropped down at all. That's not good. So I've lowered the jack away. There's, 1.5 inches between, and now I can get it to bounce a little bit where now I'm pushing down on so I can get it to bounce, but it doesn't feel like it's very happy going much past there. I'm going to try a little bit more, but if I have to, It looks like the bottom of the strut is held on by this one. It's pretty big. I bet it's very tight, and I'd really rather not have to take that off. So let me continue to try to flex things up top. I was able to get it to droop down enough to get the studs that stick up through here all the way through and offset them so it stays down there. It's still pretty tight. Yeah, this is with the top piece pushed down. You can see right up in there the stud that's now pushed down. So I think what needs to happen is this upper plate here needs to come off, and our new bushing needs to go between this lower plate and this upper plate. So I really don't see any way to, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into this, but it doesn't seem like I can possibly do that unless I remove the entire strut. Oh boy. Well, here we still are. I have looked into it a little more, and it just seems like there's really no way to do this for sure without taking it apart, which means disconnecting the hydraulic. There's like the hydraulic, and then I'm into the whole hydraulic system. And then I would have to undo this and use a ball joint fork to try and separate it down here, and just on and on and on. So I've come up with another plan, and you can probably yell at me through the screen as I tell you what I think I'm going to do here. You can see I have a little pry bar in there, kind of holding them open, and then I'm going to go up in here and I'm going to try and scrape and clean out as much as I can. I'm going to use some compressed air and clean it all, blow it out. Up top here, you can see a bunch of debris in there on top of everything, and there's stuff still inside up here. Yeah, I'm pulling it off with my fingers. So I'm going to get all that stuff cleaned off and completely cleaned out. And here's the crazy idea. I can't get this thing apart enough. Let's see, it only goes one way like that because the spacing is different on these holes. So I'm sure I have it oriented properly, and then I'll mark the edge. And I think what I'm going to do, since I can't take it apart, why can't I slice it into 3 pieces? So I've got 3 pie slices. Then I'd be able to slip it in on either side of each of the studs. It'll drop in this hole. This lip here will drop in the hole and kind of lock it in position. And then this lip around the edge will kind of hold it in. And then the whole thing goes inside of an inverted bowl, so it'll hold it in place. That's my theory. So slipping it in where my little pry bar here is, once everything's cleaned out, and there's a little play in it. So why wouldn't that work? You know, that little orange flange thing will slip down in here, and we should be good, right? Right? That's a great idea. So in order to make that work, I am going to have to figure out a way where I can cut this cleanly. And it's kind of a hard rubber. And I don't want to use like a regular saw, like this sort of thing, because that leaves it leaves a kerf. It removes some of the product as it's making a cut. And I'm hoping to not do that. I'd rather have it just be cut like by a razor blade or something like that. I'll have to see what I can figure out here. All right, well, the sharpest knife I know of, pretty much, is a carpet knife, and it does seem to be cutting. Yeah, I don't mind if it takes a little while. And there we go. Yeah, okay. So now all I've got to do is cut through this the same way. So yeah, this is doable. It's going to take a little while, and maybe I should put on a new blade. I was able to make it happen. So far, I've just got this one here done, and I was able to do it. I started it with the carpet knife, as you saw, by doing out here. And then I took it and I started the cut with the carpet knife, and then I ended up using a fresh single-edge razor blade and putting it on into the slot that I've already cut with my carpet knife, and then put it on my anvil and hammered it through. So I'm going to go ahead and do it here and here because that's pretty good. Okay, there we have it. Our 3 pieces. Well, there it is. First one's in. So now I'm going to try and rotate this thing. And I'm going to rotate it around a little bit and then try to get the other back one on the other side in. And then the last one will be the one that goes here, which is the one that faces out when the strut is not rotated. It was very hard to put in. It's very tight. I had to pry this a little bit and then do a lot of prying to squeeze it. It has to actually squish a little bit to be able to fit in between there. So take some effort. Look at that. I got the second one in. This one went in a little easier. I put a little bit of silicone on it so it would slide instead of binding. And when this gets mounted, it's going to be inside this upside down bowl thing here. So it should hold it all in place once the nuts are tight. I sure hope I'm doing this right because, well, I know I'm not doing it right, but you know what I mean. Okay, one more piece. Look at that. I got it squeezed in there. I jacked up the rotor and kind of force fed the rubber part in, and you can see I've got the nuts back installed. I vacuumed everything out. I vacuumed out this hole here so I can now release my wiring and plug this back in, and then I guess try to do the other side. So I'm going to grab it and shake it. You remember how much it moved before? I'm assuming I cut in a bit of it shaking. And now I'm going to shake it. Nothing. Nothing. That's how it's supposed to be. So next, the other side. We do have a ride height sensor on this side as well, so it's got to be part of the ABC and not for the headlights. I've got it pried down just a little. The bolts aren't quite clear yet, but you can start to see all of this disintegrating old bushing that's just gone. So I'm going to keep working on getting it pushed down a little more and then hopefully get it pried down enough where I can get the pieces in like I did on the other side. All right, well, I just took it for about a 20-mile nice drive through the country with the top down. Runs great, and now it doesn't feel choppy anymore. It had a little bit of a bounciness to it, and it doesn't. It's solid and smooth as butter. Nice.